I'm Margaret Hayes, 73 years old, and I thought I knew everything about my life. But that October evening proved me wrong. My husband Robert and I had been married for 48 years. We lived in a quiet neighborhood in Cedar Falls, where everyone knew everyone. Our two-story colonial home with its white shutters had been our sanctuary. Or so I believed. The Tuesday started like any other. Robert kissed my forehead at breakfast, his silver hair still damp from the shower. He wore his favorite cardigan, the navy one I'd given him last Christmas. "I'll be home by 6, Margaret," he said, grabbing his keys. But something felt different that day. A tension in the air I couldn't name. Call it intuition. Call it a wife's sixth sense. Something whispered that change was coming. Around 4 in the afternoon, I decided to visit my sister Helen across town. I packed an overnight bag and left Robert a note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to Helen's. Back tomorrow. Love, Militars." But I didn't go to Helen's. Instead, I drove 3 blocks away and parked near Riverside Park. I walked back home through the neighbors' yards, staying in the shadows. I felt foolish, like a character in one of those mystery novels. But I couldn't shake the feeling. I positioned myself behind the tall hedges separating our property from the Andersons' yard. Next door. From there, I had a clear view of our back porch. The sun began to set. Golden light filtered through the October leaves. I waited. At 6:30, I saw movement. Our back door opened, but it wasn't Robert who emerged. It was Vivian Patterson, our neighbor from 2 houses down, 70 years old, widowed for 5 years. The woman who brought us casseroles. The woman I'd invited to Christmas dinner. She wore a silk robe. My silk robe. The burgundy one Robert had given me for our anniversary. My heart cracked, but I didn't move. I kept watching. Robert appeared behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. They stood there on my porch, in the fading light, completely comfortable, completely familiar. This wasn't new. This had been happening for a while. I watched them laugh. I watched him kiss her neck. I watched my husband of 48 years betray everything we'd built. But I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, something cold and clear settled over me. I would wait. I would be patient. And I would make sure they both understood exactly what they'd done. I stayed hidden until Vivian left around 8, walking casually back to her house as if she'd just borrowed sugar. I remained in the darkness, thinking, planning. Just before midnight, I crept to Vivian's backyard. Her house was dark except for one light upstairs. I could see her shadow moving behind the curtains. I knocked softly on her back door. She came down in her nightgown, confused. When she opened the door and saw me standing there in the moonlight, her face went white. "Margaret," I held up my hand. "Wait until midnight, Vivian. When the clock strikes 12, you'll see everything clearly." She stared at me, terrified and confused. "What do you mean?" "You'll understand soon enough." I turned and walked away, leaving her standing in her doorway, trembling. I went home. Robert was in the living room, watching television, completely relaxed. "Margaret, I thought you were at Helen's." "Change of plans," I said calmly. I walked past him to the kitchen and poured myself tea. He followed me, nervous now. "Is everything all right?" "Sit down, Robert." He sat. I placed a folder on the table between us. Inside were photographs. I'd hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago, after I'd found a receipt for jewelry I'd never received. The photos showed everything. Robert and Vivian at restaurants, holding hands at the park, entering a hotel. "I know," I said simply. His face crumbled. "Margaret, please. I can explain." 48 years, I interrupted. 48 years of marriage, of trust, of building a life together. And you threw it away for what? Excitement? Novelty? It wasn't like that. Vivian and I, we understood each other. You understood each other. I laughed, but it was hollow. "And what about understanding your wife? Your vows? Your commitment?" He reached for my hand. I pulled away. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Now you leave. Tonight. You pack a bag and you go. I don't care where. Maybe Vivian will take you in. Maybe not. But you don't sleep under this roof anymore. Margaret, please. Can't we talk about this? Go to counseling?" "No, Robert. Some things can't be fixed with talking. Some betrayals cut too deep." At exactly midnight, I heard screaming from outside. Vivian's voice, hysterical. Robert jumped up and ran to the window. I followed slowly, my tea still in hand. Vivian stood in her front yard in her nightgown, pointing at her house. The upstairs window, her bedroom window, displayed a huge banner I'd hung there while she'd been downstairs talking to me. The banner read, in large letters, "Home Wrecker lives here." Below it, printed on the banner, were some of the photographs. Vivian and Robert, unmistakably together. Neighbors' lights flicked on. People came to their windows. Some walked outside. Vivian saw me standing in my window. Our eyes met across the yards. In hers, I saw shame, horror, and understanding. She finally saw everything clearly, just as I'd promised. Robert stared at me, shocked. Margaret, what did you do? I made sure everyone knows the truth. You both wanted to sneak around in the darkness. Now you can stand in the light. Together, the banner stayed up all night. I'd used industrial adhesive. It would take professionals to remove it. By morning, everyone in the neighborhood knew. The whispers started immediately. Vivian couldn't show her face. She put her house up for sale within a week. Robert moved to an apartment across town. He called every day for 2 months, begging for forgiveness. I never answered. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I kept the house. He kept his guilt. A year passed. I rebuilt my life. I joined a book club. I took painting classes. I traveled to places Robert had never wanted to visit. I discovered parts of myself I'd forgotten existed. One afternoon, I ran into Robert at the grocery store. He looked older, tired, alone. How are you? He asked carefully. I'm well, Robert. Truly well. I'm sorry for everything. Vivian and I. It didn't last. It was never real. I threw away something precious for something hollow. I looked at him. This man I'd loved for so long. I felt nothing. No anger. No love. No regret. I hope you find peace, Robert. I really do. But not with me. Never again with me. I walked away, my head high. That night, I stood in my kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd confronted him. But everything felt different now. Lighter. Clearer. I'd learned something important. Betrayal doesn't destroy you unless you let it. It can break you open, yes. But what grows from those cracks can be stronger than what came before. I was 74 years old, and for the first time in years, I felt truly free. The midnight truth had set me free.